There was a specific moment when I realized I had been living someone else's life. Not in a dramatic, movie scene kind of way. It was quiet. It was a Tuesday. I was sitting at my desk, staring at a project I had talked myself out of starting for the third time that month, and I just thought, whose voice is that telling me to stop? Because it definitely was not mine. Maybe you know that feeling, that thing you want to build, that idea you keep circling back to, that version of yourself you catch glimpses of sometimes, usually late at night when everyone else is asleep, and you are lying there thinking, what if I actually did it? What if I stopped listening to all the noise and just went for it? This video is about the day I finally did, and I am not going to dress it up or make it sound more heroic than it was, because honestly, it started with failure, multiple failures, and it started with years of letting other people's opinions write the story of my life. Here is what nobody tells you when you are young and ambitious. The people around you, the ones who care about you, the family members, the old friends, the well-meaning colleagues, they are not trying to hold you back, but they are terrified, and fear is contagious. They have spent years learning the safe path, the predictable path, and when they see you stepping off of it, their fear disguises itself as wisdom and lands in your ears as advice. Stop. Wait. Be realistic. What if it does not work? And because you love them, because you trust them, you listen. You plant that seed of doubt right next to your ambition, and then you wonder why nothing grows. I spent years doing exactly that. I had ideas, good ones, I think. But every time I got close to actually acting on one, I would run it past someone, and their hesitation would be enough to make me hesitate too. I told myself I was being smart. I told myself I was gathering perspectives. But really, I was just looking for permission I was never going to get. Because here is the brutal truth. Nobody gives you permission to bet on yourself. You have to take it. The shift for me did not happen overnight. It was not one conversation, or one book, or one perfect inspirational moment. It was a slow accumulation of small disappointments. Each time I waited, each time I held back, each time I chose someone else's comfort over my own potential, there was this quiet erosion happening inside me, not of my abilities, of my belief in them. And then something happened that I did not expect. I watched someone close to me chase something everyone told them was crazy, and they failed. Spectacularly, publicly failed. Lost money, lost time, had to start over. And I watched that happen, and I thought, that should scare me away from ever taking risks. But it did not. It did the opposite. Because even in that failure, even in the mess of it, I could see something. They were alive in a way I was not. They had touched something real. They had tried. And even though it hurt, they were not hollow the way I was starting to feel hollow. Comfortable, but empty. That was the day something cracked open in me. Not broke, cracked open. Like something that needed to get out finally found a gap. I stopped asking people what they thought of my ideas, not because their opinions stopped mattering to me as people, but because I finally understood that their opinions were shaped by their own fears, their own regrets, their own particular relationship with risk, and those were not mine to carry. I started small, embarrassingly small, so small that if I told you what it was, you might laugh. But that is kind of the point. It was not about the size of the first step. It was about the fact that for the first time in years, I took it alone, without running it past anyone, without building a case for it, without preparing for the moment someone would tell me it was a bad idea. I just did it. And something happened in that moment that I did not expect. A kind of clarity arrived. Like a frequency I had been trying to tune into for years suddenly came through clean and sharp. I understood in my body, not just my brain, that the version of me who waits for everyone to agree is not a careful person. That version is a person who is slowly disappearing. I am not going to tell you it all worked out perfectly from there. That would be a lie, and you deserve better than a lie dressed up as inspiration. There were still moments of doubt, still weeks when the old voices got loud again, still mornings when I sat in front of what I was building and thought, who do I think I am? But there is a difference between doubt that stops you and doubt that travels with you. When you stop outsourcing your decisions to other people, doubt loses some of its power. Because it is just a feeling. It is not a verdict from someone you trust. It is just weather. It moves. The thing I was building started taking shape slowly. And the slowness was actually a gift I did not recognize at the time. Because every day I showed up to it, I was getting to know myself better. I was learning what I actually believed, what I was willing to fight for, what kind of work made me feel real rather than efficient. People started noticing the change in me before I even talked about what I was doing. Something shifts in your energy when you stop performing for an audience of people you are afraid to disappoint. You get quieter in a good way, more grounded, less reactive. And here is what I want you to hear, especially if you are someone sitting on an idea right now, waiting for the right moment, waiting for enough support, waiting for someone to tell you it makes sense. The right moment is a myth they sell to people who are afraid. The support you are waiting for might never come in the form you are imagining, and making sense to other people should be the last thing on your list. The most real things I have ever done in my life made absolutely no sense to anyone around me at the time. That is not a sign you are wrong. Sometimes it is a sign you are early. Sometimes it is a sign you are building something no one has seen yet, and that means no one can validate it yet. That is okay. What I want you to take from my story is not that you should ignore everyone forever, or that all advice is bad. That is not it. What I want you to take is this. Know the difference between counsel and crowd control. Know when someone is offering you genuine wisdom and when they are just asking you to make your ambitions smaller so their fear is more comfortable. You are allowed to want things they do not understand. You are allowed to build things that have not been built before. You are allowed to fail loudly and get back up and try again without anyone's approval. The day I stopped listening to everyone was not the day I became fearless. It was the day I decided that my own judgment deserved a seat at the table, that my instincts had earned some trust, that the life I was dreaming about was not going to build itself in the margins of other people's expectations. I built something real, not perfect, not finished, but real and mine. And I want that for you more than I can properly explain in a video. So if something in these words is landing in a part of you that recognizes itself, do not scroll past that feeling. Sit with it for a second, and then ask yourself, what would I start building today if I stopped waiting for permission? Drop it in the comments. Seriously, say it out loud. That is the first act of ownership. And if this video found you at the right moment, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes all it takes is knowing that someone else stopped waiting, and it did not ruin them. It set them free.